Hello, hello, hello. Oh my goodness, what a day. Anybody else walking around with Kleenex in their pocket to wipe the tears? I am, and I'm very happy to be here with here is, in a manner of speaking, with a very good friend of mine, Chris Hughes, who's in Australia. And one of the things I love about Chris is willing to be Chris with no filters. And who better to talk to us about living with no filters than the phenomenal Chris Hughes. Chris, my friend, how you doing?
I am awesome, but I'm confused. I didn't realize this
I can't
was
hear you yet, but
being you, Dain.
this is going to be
Oh,
good
you
when
can't?
I can. We have technical difficulties. There we go. Now try
We're
talking.
just going to mine this one.
Oh, perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Awesome. Yes. This is our.
I'm
Go.
sorry. I'm here for the wrong broadcast.
Do you know which one you're here for? That's the question.
Well, I thought I was coming for being a Jew day in a life of no fritters.
No, you're on the right podcast. Yeah, it's being a Jew.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is our life of no fritters conversation. What's it like having no fritters?
I brought my matzo ball recipe.
Good. Okay, good. What else could a man do? So, my friend, how you doing first?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much. I, like you, am sitting here with the tissue just like, wow, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It is definitely one of those days, the beauty of what we can actually be together. And I met you in Korea, of all places. And I think that was our first meeting, came there to do an Access Consciousness. Was that the first one?
No, it was a little bit before that. I actually met you in Brisbane, Australia, where I live now.
Back when you were Canadian and then.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Uh-huh. So give me a little background on Chris, and you have this wonderful way of showing up as you and not trying to be anything that you're not. And one of the things I also wanted to talk about that we can branch into is, in social media now, people try to put on their perfect filter, try to put on their perfect face to show everybody how perfect they are. And you do it totally differently. You're like, here's me, here's the quirkiness, but also it's not, some people will do quirky as sort of their brand, like, here's how I'm quirky today, here's how I'm quirky with this. For you, it just comes from your being. So can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing first and how the heck I don't know, it's just like, I know a bit of your story, but how the heck you got to this place where you were willing to just be you without the mask?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe similar to you, Dain. I came from humble beginnings. There was not a whole lot on offer where I came from and the family that I chose to be a part of. And I always wanted more. I always looked at what was there and went, this can't be it. Really? And I had to learn at an early age that people are going to judge you for you choosing to have the life, the future, and the reality that was actually of any interest.
Yeah, well put.
What I'm saying?
Yeah, very well put.
Yeah, like it's to me it's intensely boring, and I just can't put on a mask to be somebody other than who I am. And as you say, in the world of social media today, there's all these images presented to us of who they think we're supposed to look like or sound like or be like to get more followers, and that whole validation cycle of like me, like me, like me. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, am I doing this right based on your judgments of do I fit into the appropriate box? And, what you said, it's so boring. And I think you and I both have an abhorrence of boring and an abhorrence of being bored. And this thing of trying to be normal, trying to be the thing that's so small that you can control it all the time, never having the space for something different to emerge and erupt when it wants to, is so friggin' boring. So you had humble beginnings, and you had, you know, having you tell some of the stories about your family and some of the people that you grew up around are some of the most entertaining things in the world. I don't know if you want to share any of that, but dear Lord, is it funny?
There was characters, you know, like it started with my grandmother. Now, my grandmother, she married 3 men in a row, all called Jack. Is that pragmatic or what? There was Jack who died in the war, Jack who died of heart disease, and then the other Jack who sold Cadillacs, and he lasted the longest. And so when you have 3 husbands, all called Jack, what do you name your children? John, Jean, Joan, and Georgina.
Of course.
And then my mother, she had me, and then she had my brother, and he was born without a thumb, so he had an arm that looked a bit like a T-Rex. And then he had my sister, who was born as Jennifer, but then she wanted to have a sex change operation, and what name was she going to take as a man? Jack!
Okay. Now, okay, so the beauty about this for me is your perspective on this, okay? Because somebody else could have lived in that and just gone, and succumbed to normal. And you were just like, this is some funny shit. This is just absolutely entertaining. Kind of.
Yep, totally entertaining.
What else? What?
Well, growing up where I did, you have to imagine the part of Canada where I grew up, it was basically the cold, flat bit in the middle where there was nothing really happening. And what did I want to be as a young guy? You know, I'm looking around and people are choosing their sort of career paths and where they want to go. And what did I want to do? I'd like to sing Italian opera, which, again, from the family I came from, that was a very odd choice. And the points of view that were directed towards me were things like, well, why do you need to do that? You could sing in the church.
So.
And I wasn't that interested in church either.
So,
you know?
So here you are wanting to sing in the Italian opera. And so right now, so you are the main guy behind the Antique Guild in Australia, and a beautiful, eclectic, you have a beautiful eclectic sense, shall we say. And you collect things from around the world. So I'm curious, walking that path, being in the dead of normal, and choosing to go no, how did you navigate going from normal as in the dead center of Canada to being willing to chart your own course no matter where it led? Because I just got to say a couple of things. We're having technical fun here. A couple of things. Like, I met you in Korea, where you were living there as an expat, and then you ended up, after that, you know, trials, travels, tribulations, whatever. Now you're in Australia, where you've been for several years, and doing the Antique Guild. But I've seen you do many things along the way, and you'll do them. They'll either work or they won't, and then it's kind of like, well, that was fun. What else? And here you've got something that continues to be different enough to keep you from being bored. And tell me a little bit about navigating from blatantly normal to absolutely not and loving it.
Okay. Well, I want to tie in your other two questions as well, because you talked about, I love when you said the dead of normal, because that's exactly where I grew up. And my entire life, I felt like a spectator. You know, like even talking about what you said about my perspective on my family. You know, people would grow up and think that's all they had and that was their only option. Sort of a blessing and a curse for me was always feeling on the outside of it, like I was looking in. Um, and that sort of led me on a number of adventures and always being willing to sort of follow my nose and go from one place to the next and one adventure to the next. And it wasn't until coming along to things like access consciousness that I was like, the thing that I really would like different and what I would really like to change is this feeling of being separate, of standing outside as a spectator. I always felt like this planet in orbit of everybody else, like I was the moon looking at the earth and not actually there with everybody. Do you know what I'm saying?
I was muted. I said, boy, do I know what you're saying. And I think I would say probably almost every person watching this right now has had or has right now a sense of that. And this idea of orbiting reality and orbiting everybody else's reality. And like, where do I fit? And here's the secret, spoiler alert, you don't fit. And that's actually the greatness of you. But in getting to that place where you're willing to be you without the filters, without the mask, it creates this space of, okay, I don't fit, now what? Rather than I'm going to put all of my energy into trying to fit or trying to make the moon somehow be part of the earth, you know, I'm going to realize, okay, I'm an orbiting satellite here. Now what? And one of the things I love about you is you got to that, have functioned from that for a very long time, at least in the time that I've known you. And it was less about, and maybe inside it was sometimes trying to fit in and trying to fit and wondering why you didn't, but it was more about, okay, I don't fit, now what? So what do you say to people that are struggling with that or need some guidance, need some reassurance on how do I get there?
Cool. Well, I'll give you the class actually where it occurred, where the penny sort of dropped for me more than anything, because yeah, I've always been willing to be myself and be different, but I actually didn't have that much peace with it for quite a long time. And I went to a 7-day class in New Zealand, and I was looking at people like you, and I was seeing how you have this capacity to let people into your world. And I was like, all right, that's what this is the change that I'm going to ask for. And I stood up at the microphone at the 7-day class and I said, Gary, I would like to let people into my world. And he said, that's nice, but that's not really going to help you much. I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, the thing for you is you receive everybody. You let them into your world, but you never let you out into theirs. So for me, to me, like the whole thing you're talking about of going beyond the filters and just being you, no matter who's watching, and presenting you. It's about being this energy of engagement where you receive everyone. You allow their energy to be a part of your world, but you never make your world less, and you allow you out into their realities as well. So there's no separation. There is no me and you. There's, hey, it's us.
I love that. And that idea of that was a brilliant conversation. You let them in, you don't judge them, but you don't let you out into their world. And that's such that one distinction right there can be so helpful for people, because that's one of the things that people are doing is I'm not letting myself be out into the world, as though if we allow our being to impact other people, it's going to be a terrible outcome rather than a glorious outcome. As though anything we're connected with that we might give to somebody, be with somebody, do with somebody, any way in which we might be let out into their world is going to be destructive to them. And I think it's one of the biggest lies that we buy, as though somehow us being us and letting this out is actually going to hurt other people. And it actually doesn't. It's one of those places, it's one of those things that really enriches people's lives. And so many people like us are out there desiring somebody to come into our world, to interact with our world. Because if we don't let ourselves out into theirs, then they're still in that satellite position, feeling all alone, because nobody is actually reaching into their world to see what's true for them or to contribute to them. And I think that's one of the gifts we can be for people, if we would choose it.
Absolutely. And when you said, it's like, if you let you out and let you be a part of the world around you, you're not going to hurt anyone. You're not going to take away anyone's choice. You are actually a great and glorious gift and a valuable part of oneness. Consciousness includes everything. So if you're willing to have the allowance for you and the vulnerability with you and share that with others, it's like passing the baton to everybody else to say, you know what, you can do it too. Let you out, let us in, and we can all be more if you'll let it.
Yeah, beautiful. So with the classes you facilitate, with the Right Voice for You classes, you have this beautiful way of, you'll have people on stage, sometimes they'll be talking, sometimes they'll be singing, sometimes they'll be acting, or whatever it is, but you have this beautiful way of letting them know, number one, you're not wrong. Number one, we're all here for you. And number two, let it go, baby. Let it go. Can you talk more about, like, if you could say something about that to people, about letting it go, letting themselves out, letting them let the regulator off or the filter off, what would it be?
So the thing that I've been asking for myself, for the last several years in particular, has been taking those 5 elements of intimacy and living that. Being the vulnerability, the allowance, the gratitude, the trust, and the honor for myself, and inviting anyone else to it who wants it. And with Right Voice, that's what we do too. I'd love to talk to you sometime about Right Voice and being you and what we could create together, because there was a time where Right Voice was about performing, and now it's really about being you without a filter and sharing that. So the thing that I do with people when they're at a class and they're stepping through an uncomfortable place for them, or they're getting out of their comfort zone into something new, is I say, hey, you have permission right now to fuck it up. Get it wrong. Do it as badly as you can. And what usually happens is they go, oh, I'm allowed? Okay, then I'll just do whatever. And they usually end up showing you a glorious, beautiful, intimate, vulnerable side of themselves. It's like, it's very humbling.
No need for sorry. I've been crying all day. I think it's beautiful. This, and what you said. You give them permission to fuck it up and do it as badly as they possibly can, and there's this beauty that shows up. That if we would choose to allow ourselves that and be that, I could think of few greater gifts in the world. You know, we did this idea of a judgment-free day earlier, and that's the interesting thing is jumping directly to that is opening a space, but really it's like you get there from being willing to fuck it up and not have to do it right and not have to do it perfectly. And then also to realize that your judgments and other people's judgments don't matter. They don't have nearly the veracity and the validity that we thought they did. It's a lie that we've been buying. And the willingness to stand there and get it wrong, I think, is just friggin' brilliant. And I thank you because you invite people to that by being that. And it's always also playful. It's not always playful, but there's always that space for playing and laughing at ourselves. You know, that space of, because you're willing to fuck it up and laugh at yourself, gives everybody else the freedom to. But what then also opens up is this really vulnerable, hey, you know what? Here we are. Let's do our best. And let's give it all we can, and let's not try to be perfect.
Amen, brother.
Amen, my brother. Anything else you want to say while I have your undivided attention, which doesn't happen very often?
I know you probably heard it a million times today, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I wish I could hug you.
So do I. Yeah, can we just all around the world ask for all this travel ban shit to cease now, please? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you, my beautiful friend. Truly an honor and a pleasure to speak with you.
Always a gift. Thank you.
See you soon.